The Books That Shaped Me is proudly sponsored by WinStar Insurance Group, right out of Cedar Park, Texas. Owned and operated by Stephanie Dew, my dear friend. Early on in her career, she knew what it was like to feel undervalued. And she vowed that if she ever had an opportunity to be in leadership, she was going to do it different. And she does. She values each of her employees and her clients with the utmost integrity and respect and kindness that you'd ever imagine. So they've got a specialty in their business. They take care of first responders. They've got wineries, breweries, childcare facilities, and the employees themselves are so excited to be there. And they talk about how they haven't felt valued anywhere else like they do there. So it's hats off to Stephanie and WinStar Insurance Group because our values align with faith, trust, and authenticity. Thank you, Stephanie, from the bottom of my heart and those of us that hang out with the books that shaped me. Hey everyone, it's Angie Smith, and we're back for another episode of The Books That Shaped Me. And I am so blessed to have Miss Kathy Wetzel with us today. Kathy and I have known each other a little over a year, maybe close to 2 years now, and we met through a networking group called SIM, which is the Society of Information Management. And it's a really neat networking group because it's a lot of the leaders from both our public and our private sector and some higher ed. And we get together and we talk about some of the challenges that are facing so many of our leaders across the board. And it's a really exciting place to just kind of talk through those conversations at a networking experience. But also we've got some leaders, like we recently had an FBI person kind of sharing what's on the landscape. And so that you never know what type of topics are going to come up. And Kathy has been a leader in SIM for quite some time, and she really has some really cool projects. But I'm going to give her a chance to talk about the role that she plays there and some of the story that she's been able to navigate in her life. So with that, Kathy, thank you for joining me and being willing to kind of unpack your leadership journey and not just the books that shaped you, but some of those moments and mentors. So with that, I'm going to give you a chance to say your hello and we'll go from there.
Well, thanks, Angie. I appreciate it. Yes, it's been fun getting to know you as well. SIM is really very close to my heart. I actually started SIM in Minneapolis about 12 years ago.
Oh.
But when I moved to Austin, I really knew nobody. And because SIM is a national organization, I immediately found a chapter here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a wonderful way to get introduced to the tech community here in Austin and how I was able to meet other CIOs and CTOs, especially when you come into a city and you don't know who the vendors are, you don't know the landscape. I was able to lean on many of the CIOs from Q2 and James Avery to find out who are the great, vendors, because I surely wasn't going to go contract unless I couldn't find one from somebody in Minneapolis when I'm now here in Texas. So I really support SIM and what we do. Besides the networking, the give back that we do, I lead the golf tournament now, which we then provide scholarships for young people who are getting into STEM. And it is amazing to see these young people. I went to some of their AI demo days and they just blew me out of the water on some of the things that they can do. So SIM is kind of like a three-legged stool. You educate because we have training programs and meetings with panels. You network with other, your peers and other IT folks and vendors, and then a give back program. So I'm just a very big promoter of SIM.
I love it. And when you joined SIM Chapter Austin 12 years ago, were you already in the CIO role?
I was.
Okay.
I was.
Okay.
Yep, for sure. So my career kind of started way back when, and I had an accounting degree. And when I got out of college, there were no jobs. We were in a deep recession. So now you know how old I am. But my father, probably one of my biggest mentors, said, I think you should go into computer science. So he put me through school again, and I got a computer science degree. And at that time, I was able to get multiple job offers.
Yeah.
But I took a job offer with Honeywell in Minneapolis as a computer programmer. That's how I started my career.
Wow.
But then after a few years of staring at a computer screen, I realized maybe that wasn't going to be a great fit for the rest of my career.
Mm.
I was a little more outgoing than that. So I went to my boss and I said, okay, so what other opportunities are there? And he actually suggested that I go talk to the VP of audit for Honeywell
Mm.
because I had an accounting degree
Mhm.
and I had a computer science degree. And that was about the time that Honeywell started to audit computer programs, the
Oh,
inputs and the outputs. And so I went and interviewed and I got hired as kind of outside of who they would normally hire. They would normally get the top grads out of the high school or out of the colleges. And I'd already been in the workforce 3 years.
Mhm.
So I was a little outside the norm, but I spent 3 years traveling all over the United States and Europe and started auditing. And then I ended up auditing just computer stuff, programs, and I actually got to audit some of the financial stuff. So I had both sides, and that really kind of, momentous to the next part of my career because the audit program was very structured.
Mhm.
You're only there for so long, and
Mhm.
then you move out into one of the divisions. And I was lucky enough to get several offers, but I ended up in San Diego, where Honeywell was moving their factory out of LA to San Diego. So
Mm.
that was an amazing experience because it's not very often you get to take a 100-year-old company and basically start over.
Wow.
We were able to, do a lot of things different when we moved to San Diego, and I would traveled back and forth because I was one of the first hires that they had, and I was in accounting. And I still remember this story. I had a great mentor with the CFO there, and the woman who trained me had all these reports that she would do. And I took a little risk and I only did, I don't know, maybe 10 of the 20. And he didn't even notice.
Oh. No.
So I'm like, "Oh my goodness." So then I finally had a conversation with him and I said, "I've got a lot more time because I'm not running these reports for you and you're not missing them."
Uh-huh.
So that kinda got me into looking at change and how change is, presented to
Uh-huh.
people. So that was an amazing
Can
opportunity.
can I ask what, well, firstly, how'd that idea get in your brain? Because I think from a female in a male-dominated space, we're really trying to prove that we can hang and keep up, but you had an idea.
I had
You
an
went with it.
idea
What
that I felt like a lot of the reports he was running didn't add value.
Uh-huh.
So I took the risk. Again, being very new to this organization, I took the risk and it paid off. Now, sometimes risks don't
Not
always pay
always.
off. Um,
But it gave you that opportunity. You saw it, you executed on it, then you followed up the conversation with the leader.
I did.
And how did that go when he said, "You're right, I'm not really reading those reports"?
He said, "Oh my goodness." He said, "I can't believe that I had, her doing that." Sometimes I don't think leaders always know what their employees are doing,
Yeah.
right? And then it becomes more rote
Mhm.
instead of, "Why am I doing this?"
Sure.
And do we ask enough questions
Yes.
as to, "Why am I doing this part?"
Right.
I mean, I always feel like you can always ask the question. The answer may be no
Sure.
or just do it.
Yeah.
But if you don't ask it, you never know what the answer is going to be. So that was kind of a big step for me to take some risks and not always know what the outcome is going to be.
You went with your gut.
I did, but I also had a really good mentor in the CFO. He helped me along the way. I was there, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. I guess it was 5 years. Um, but I did another thing that I did. We were changing the whole way we did the accounting, the cost accounting for this organization. And it was the first time I was doing it, and I made a huge error. It was a $1 million error. And when I found it, I went to him and he already found it, but I, fessed up. But what was so great about him is that he would have to report to his boss every month.
Mhm.
And of course, there was always this issue for the whole year. And he never, ever threw me under the bus. He just moved on. And so I learned a lot from him on how to manage mistakes. How do you get over them?
Yeah.
How do you help the employee not feel like you've just made the biggest mistake of your life, even though I felt that's what I made?
Sure.
So I think mentors are so, so important in your life.
In that example, you were being mentored by how he lived and did his job. Did you guys also have like monthly, weekly coffee meeting? What else did that mentorship look like for you?
No, we would have our normal, status update meetings. But I think the reason I believe that this organization and my relationship with him matured so is that because we were starting something new. And so we had this nucleus of about 12 people before we started hiring a bunch of other people to run the factory. And so we would do more social events to really get to know each other. So it was made up of, finance and HR and, the factory leaders. So it was, I think that's why my relationship with him became so deep because of some of the social aspects that we did.
Beautiful.
Besides working together,
Sure.
So
it wasn't super structured that built that relational foundation.
Right.
Which kind of ties back to the value that you invest with SIM.
Oh, that's true.
Right. Because you understand we're people first and then we're solving problems together.
Yes, that's for sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you learned a lot in that experience. And I want to just match with you. I similarly had, a time where I fessed to my manager a mistake I had made, and with grace and confidence and competence. And I went from feeling like, I'm so embarrassed I want to crawl into a hole to I'm going to be able to come in tomorrow and, learn from the mistake and it's going to be okay.
It's
right.
gonna be fine.
I don't have to die, shrivel up and die.
No.
All right. So from there,
so after I left Honeywell, I actually had a wonderful opportunity. The general manager of this, division at Honeywell came to me and said, "We have an opportunity for you." Honeywell was looking at implementing the Oracle ERP suite way back then when that became the big rage. We have an opportunity for you to join this center of excellence, and you would move to Brussels, Belgium. Well, I was totally flattered. And my husband and I had gotten married in August, and this was a conversation in November. So I go home and I say, "Honey,
how do you feel about Brussels?
How would you like to move to Brussels?" Oh my goodness. His mouth dropped to the floor. He didn't say anything for I don't know how many seconds. And I finally said, "Okay, why don't you just think about it?" So we didn't really talk about it all week, but the end of that week, I actually got a bouquet of flowers similar to my wedding bouquet. And he said, "Blow in my ear and I'll follow you anywhere." Oh. I know. I got a sweet husband. And in that time, I had actually gone back to the general manager and I said, "So, Andy and I just got married. What happens if I turn this down?" And he said, "Okay, I'm going to be straight with you. If you turn it down, they're probably not going to ask you again." So then I'm like, "Oh my goodness, what if he says no?" But he didn't. And so we actually sold everything and we moved to Brussels, Belgium.
Wow.
And the assignment was supposed to be 2 years because Andy was trying to go to school. And it was such a fabulous job. My team was made up of a Scottish person, a Australian, me, my boss was British. We just had a great nucleus. And it was really trying to get all of the divisions of Honeywell to think through what could we do to implement this ERP suite. And I guess that was my first real implementation of an IT system. Of course, it was massive, right? It wasn't just a little thing. It was every single division was going to get on this Oracle system. And as I look back at my career now, it doesn't really matter, but everybody feels they're so unique. Right? Oh, we can't do it that way. But yet your end game is the same. So that whole job was really to try to influence and ask questions as to why it couldn't work, or what could we do together to make that work so we would be successful in implementing this suite across the United States and across all of the Honeywell divisions. So I had a wonderful experience there. I think great leadership opportunities, even though I was just a worker bee.
Yeah.
Right? But I got to know so many people within Honeywell.
I love when you described the mix of folks that you were working with and the questions that you were tasked with working through. I understand you're implementing a big system-wide project. Was that questioning mindset part of some of those different cultures that were brought into the space?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably because, even though at the end of the day, Honeywell's making widgets, right? Some were bombs and bullets back then. Some is, a thermostat. And some of the culture does play into that, because how you implement that system with the people become very different, right? Even though the output you want is kind of the same. So I think part of it was some of the questions and why. For me, it's always like why it won't work, or what could we do to make it work that would fit. I think those are the important things to really, and then you have to ask those questions like 7 times, right? You can't just ask it once.
Yeah.
The other thing I learned is you can't accept the head nod. You're in a conversation and they're nodding their heads, but they're not agreeing.
Oh gosh, it's so deceptive.
Yes.
When I want to receive a yes and I see a head nod, I'm like, great, we're good.
No.
And you're like, it doesn't carry merit.
No, you have to really get them committed in order to get that buy-in. And one of the suggestions I had with my boss is, this is really tough and we don't know all of these people. So I had suggested to him that we have an on-site, this is again back in the early 90s. And so he agreed. And so he got all of the people that were really decision makers. And we had this 2-day conference. I think it was in Phoenix. And it was amazing by having that 2 days and getting to know each other face to face. We had long lunches, we had dinners to get to know each other personally. And then when you tackle those hard problems, oh, right, it's Johnny, from the Australian factory or whatever. I met him. I know a little bit about him. I think that really helped to push some of those really difficult things over to a yes. So anyway, that was an amazing opportunity, both personally and professionally. Because once my assignment was up, I moved back to Minneapolis, which is where I started from, even though my husband grew up in San Diego. So we moved back to Minneapolis, and then again, that was a very structured job that you're only in 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
So then I became the manager. I actually became a manager of customer service. And that was another great opportunity. But one thing that I strongly have advised all of my leaders after me was, get to know your HR person. Because there's so many things that they deal with every single day that you don't. You might run into it once in your whole management career, but they have so many more suggestions on how to deal with a personnel problem or a conflict, that I really think that getting to know your HR person is a key thing when you move into leadership.
Very valuable. I always feel like, into a similar point of that is like with IT itself. Like if IT works, you don't have to know about it. You don't have to worry about it. But when it doesn't work, then we're like, why doesn't it work? Similarly with HR, like when they're doing their job, we are not aware of all the many things that they're doing. But we should, it's like stopping to smell the roses. Like, let's stop and appreciate like these bones that keep my body upright. I never think my bones, I never think my IT infrastructure, but let's stop and do that. Let's appreciate those things that work behind the scenes that keep us moving forward.
It's very true. Very true. So you brought up something, there was some books that I read. The one that kept coming up was Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And I actually got that from a VP at Honeywell in the division I was working with. And I've gone back and read that book several times based on different parts of my life. So being a new manager, I was sweating everything, right?
Sure.
Like if things weren't, just everything. And that helped me like, okay, that's not important.
Mhm.
What's important, right?
Mhm.
And then when I had Thomas, my son, that's a different set of things. Like don't sweat the small stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you're balancing between being a mom and trying to be a good manager and a good employee. So that book really resonated again, but in a different way. So I really love that book. And I love the fact that I got it from another VP at Honeywell. So
That's so powerful.
yeah.
I feel like some of those good books are just like that. You can go back to it in a different stage and phase in your life, same content, same words, and I'm able to pull something different that fits in a new way in my life.
Right.
I love that.
Yes, for sure. So let's see what after that, what happened? Oh, I was asked to become the director of customer service. So I moved up a notch and became a director. And at that time, I had customer service and the order entry systems. I had 3 locations. But then Honeywell was going through an acquisition, and GE was actually trying to acquire Honeywell. And I was asked again to be on the transition team. We had all of our plans ready to go. I was actually in a training session in a GE facility when the EU came back and said, oh, the deal's not going to go through. And I was kindly, not just me, I was kindly walked out the door. It was the weirdest thing.
Ouch.
Yes, it was very weird. But one of the things that kind of hit after that was, oh, I kind of thought I knew what my direction was going to be. And then it's not there. And so then I had to go back and really think about what do I want next? And I really felt like maybe this was the time to leave Honeywell. Wow. So I used my network. I had a really big network at that time in Minneapolis. And I started to put the feelers out. And I got a call from a friend of mine and said, hey, there's this job at Great Clips, the hair company. I think you'd be great at it. And I'm looking at this job description. I'm like, there is no way. But hey, I probably need to brush up on my interview skills. So I took the interview. And the CEO and I got along really well.
What was the role?
It was the VP of technology for Great Clips.
The VP of technology.
So I'm coming off of that to go to Great Clips. Anyway, it was so unreal.
So you got the job of VP of technology.
I did, much to my surprise. So I start, and corporate made every corporate employee go through the training that all the stylists go through so that you really get to know the brand.
Okay.
Brand is so important at Great Clips. So I go to this training class where all these stylists are. And the first thing, the instructor says, well, sign your name tent so we know who you are. So I sign it, Kathy, and everybody else has doodles and colors. They're all creative people. And I'm going, oh my gosh. I came home. I said to my husband, I think I've made the worst decision in my life taking this job. I got through training. And so I also said to him, I said, look, I'm going to learn everything I can. In a year, I'll go find something else. Okay. Well, fast forward. That job was one of my most favorite jobs.
Wow.
The culture was so great, so collaborative. The founder of Great Clips and the CEO really looked at like 10 years out, not like a public company where you have to report to the street every quarter. Every quarter you have to give them, data. And so sometimes a lot of times the strategy was changed because, you didn't make the numbers or whatever. So at Great Clips, because it was private, he was always looking much longer range. And the other thing is that we were all shooting for the same thing. How do we get, customers into the salon? Because we felt like if we get them into the salon, they're going to get a great cut.
Yeah.
And so everybody's pulling in the same direction. And that was different for me because in the other, Honeywell, and I was at Valspar for a little, it was bigger. There was, more dynamics. There was more objectives to meet. Again, reporting to the street was always different. So I had one of the best jobs at Great Clips, was able to introduce new technology, was able to participate in what's now their app, their waiting app, and that was fabulous. I was able to test that out with a franchisee out on the West Coast, and learn things that we would have never thought of.
Wow!
Just you do these kind of experiments, proof of concepts, and you think you know what you're going to get, but then there's these surprises, these delights that come out of it. Anyway, it was one of my best jobs ever.
I was expecting you to say hitches or glitches or curveballs, but you said surprises or delights.
Yes.
So not just technical challenges, not just, man, how are we going to face and overcome this, but some really cool moments.
It was very cool moments.
Wow.
So yeah, I thought that job, I learned a lot. Again, great mentors there. The CEO was fabulous.
And same question, was it more of a formal mentoring or like an informal mentoring?
That one was informal.
Okay.
I did have a formal mentor that I joined. It was the Mentium program. I don't know if that's a national thing or not. And my mentor was an attorney, so very different.
Wow.
But she was so awesome. In one of the suggestions that she had for me was, you need to create a board of directors. And don't pick people that are like you. Pick people that maybe have different opinions than you.
Wow.
And so I had like 4 people on my board of directors who were either my ex-bosses, right? Or friends. And when I had a challenge that I really didn't know how to solve, I would go to one of them or a couple of them and get their opinion. And I thought that was great advice. And I've shared that with my mentees and my managers.
That's awesome.
It's just, I think, a really great way to get outside opinions. And you're not so close to it, because if you work with somebody inside, you're going to have probably similar views. But if you take it out of the context and you present them with a problem and how they might go about either fixing it or giving you suggestions, I think it's just more objectivity.
That's beautiful.
To the concepts.
I just love it. The diversity, to look at it from different angles. There's a proverb or something about blind men feeling an elephant. Have you heard this one? And like one of them is touching the leg, one of them's touching the tail, one of them's touching the trunk, and they're all describing what an elephant is, but they just have one slice of the pie. Right. But you get a different perspective and you're able to look at it and just really look at it from all different ways. That's really cool. And not to take away from the beautiful human to human component that you just articulated, but in AI, we can do that now too. We can create a board of directors.
That's right.
With people who aren't even alive, like Albert Einstein, Jesus, Brene Brown, and I could slash Brene in my board of directors for feedback. So I love the human to human, but wow, we can do that.
You could do that, right?
You can.
Anyway, so my next move was down here in Austin.
Finally came to Texas.
How
did we get you here?
Well, there was a management change at Great Clips. My son's school was closing, and my husband had just been fed up with the winters. Growing up in San Diego. Yeah. I can't believe I left him there 19 years. So anyway, I said, okay, I think this is a sign. So again, my network, a friend of mine reached out to me. I told him that I was looking for a new job. He reached out and he said, hey, have you ever thought of coming to Austin? I'm like, it's funny you should say that, because Andy and I had targeted Phoenix and Austin because we both are big golfers and good places. So anyway, I got into the pool and was interviewed.
And that was with TASB?
It was with TASB.
Okay.
The interesting thing about that, though, is that I was sitting in the airport from another interview in Phoenix, and I was told I did not get the job.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, well, I appreciate that. And, but I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get that other one in Phoenix that I just interviewed for.
Mm-hmm.
I get home, a few days pass. I did get the offer from this one in Phoenix, but then I got a call from the CEO at TASB. And he said, we'd like to extend the offer to you. And I was really taken back. And I'm like, oh, I think I got to really think about this, because now you're not first choice. So after a lot of internal discovery, a lot of prayer, I decided that I was going to accept that position here at TASB for a couple of reasons. One, the job here was just a lot more, there was a lot more technologies in place. It was very diverse because we service, Texas Association of School Boards services so many parts to the school districts. It's not just one thing. And the one in Phoenix was a manufacturing organization, which I loved their mission. They took vans and they retrofitted for folks that needed assistance, like wheelchairs or things like that. So great in that fact that it was one thing. But the first thing they wanted me to do was implement an ERP system. And I'm like, oh, wait, I did that. And I don't care how good a technologist you are. They never go great. They just never do. So TASB, I accepted, very, very happy that I did that. I've learned so much about nonprofits, so much about how small a company can be, but yet so diverse. And then the mission of serving public education is just really important. And that's an interesting thing. When I accepted, I said, so my son goes to private school. Is that going to be a problem? Because I'm not in the public system. The CEO couldn't have answered it better. He said, look, the mission is for public education, but you as a parent have to do the right thing for your child.
Yes.
And so that kind of eased that situation. And the people at TASB are so smart, so smart. And I've learned so much from all of the VPs over there. And I just can't say enough about what they do. And I'm really excited. There's so many things that I learned through my career that I think really helped with this recent transition as I retired from the CIO. One of the things that Honeywell taught me is you've got to have a succession plan, and you've got to constantly be thinking about that. And in fact, Honeywell would say, if you don't have a successor ready to go, you might not get promoted. So my mind has always been, okay, who's the successor for the best programmer that we have, and who was my successor? And I actually interviewed a woman 4 years ago who I thought at that time could take my job, and it turned out beautifully, and she is now the CIO over there. But that is a great lesson for any leader, because you want to have a succession plan. What happens if you get sick, or what happens? And it really is helpful for you as well as the person coming up to fill your shoes and the company.
Yeah.
So just another tidbit.
I love
leadership.
that. Yes. No, that's exactly what this is about. And also, when you have a succession plan, you yourself are aware of the next level or step for yourself, which vacates and gives an opportunity for growth.
Yes.
It's not just that there's going to be a hitch or a glitch if I'm sick or unavailable, but really touching the future, because you are going somewhere and they're coming behind you, and we want to open those spaces up.
Exactly. And I think it's very healthy to be able to promote from within. But I think that can also be overdone as well. You do need to have a mix of new ideas coming into an organization, as well as keeping the people that are working really hard and giving them opportunities. I think those are two also very important things.
I have heard there's a title now of OCM, Organizational Change Management.
Mm.
And I feel like, wow, what a job. Because it sounds like a big job. And it sounds like meeting people where they're at, introducing some common language so we can implement the next technology or idea.
Right.
But it sounds like you've done a lot of that in
I
your
did
career.
a lot of that in my career. Just about every job I had was implementing some sort of change.
Wow.
Whether it was way back when I first started and changing the way I didn't do the reports, right?
Uh-huh.
And one of the books I read was, Who Moved My Cheese?
Okay. Yeah.
And that was all about change.
Yes.
And it's funny because I think the people that we really need to work with when we're making a change is not necessarily the naysayers, but it's those people in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
right? People that are already on board, okay, they're going to be supporting you.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that are naysayers might never come along. But I think there's more people in the middle that we need to spend more time understanding, again, why the change won't work or what could we do so that it can work. And I don't think we spend time with that.
Yeah.
Right.
This reminds me of when you said you got those nodding heads. You're
Yeah.
giving a half of a,
Yes.
I'm trying to be in this moment so I don't look like the naysayer.
Right.
But they weren't fully in.
But they're not
How
in.
did you press past just a kind of blank stare, empty nod?
Well, I think part of it is learning that, you'll figure it out pretty quick if they just nod your head in the next conversation. So then instead of waiting for that next, I went to them and said, hey, I know you were in the meeting.
Uh-huh.
I know you were nodding your head, but I don't think you are really on board. I mean, you have to be direct. Yeah. And what is it about it? Right? Like, what is it about the change? Is it you don't think it's going to work, or there's maybe ideas that you have that you were afraid to bring up? So it's really being inquisitive and getting the people to talk about why they think it's not going to work.
And it took time.
Oh, it takes a lot of time.
I've heard trust is spelled Time. Like you saw it, you did something about it, and you spent time having a one-on-one conversation, not like with a big group of 10 people.
You have to do one-on-ones.
Wow.
It just doesn't work, I don't think, if you try to do it in a group setting. Yes, I mean, we do those too.
Sure.
But I think it's really, if you're really going to get down to what's the obstacle, you need to be upfront and find out what is the obstacle.
Right. Because it's not just about the technology. There's some hearts and minds going on here.
Usually it's not the technology at all.
It's an afterthought.
The technology, we will get the technology to work.
Yeah.
It's all of this stuff that happens, right? It's how that technology impacts that person.
Yeah.
I mean, like this AI stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
AI is going to be there. It's going to be around forever, just like the internet and the mobile phone. We've gone through these cycles. This one just seems to be really fast.
Mm-hmm.
But it's how it impacts the employees and how it impacts people. And we don't spend enough time there.
Yeah.
Right? At least I don't think we do.
No, I feel like that's why when I hear organizational change manager, I'm like, that's a big job, because I can feel that what you just articulated, the technology is one component, but to have change, you have to have the people.
Mm-hmm. You have to have people.
And we have to be the bridge to help keep that communication going.
That's right.
I just have appreciated what you've shared, Kathy. I mean, you've walked us through, the beautiful career that you've had that has thrown some curveballs.
A few.
Brussels and Great Clips and back and then Texas. You hadn't lived here before.
Oh,
so
heavens no.
Come on to Texas. We didn't have tumbleweeds or horses everywhere, but we brought you here. But for you to kind of distill down some of those lessons that you've been able to learn, like about valuing your HR person, having the mentorship, formal or informal, investing, spending time. I mean, these are lessons that all of us can take to heart. And I just love that you've shared them with us in a way that we can learn from your journey.
Well, it's been very fun, Angie. I really appreciate you inviting me to do this.
Well, I'm so glad to have you. Before we round out our time together, are there any other books that that you might want to give a shout out to that have kind of
I think, well, we
impacted you?
talked about Who Moved My Cheese. That was one. Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, which is another book that I keep going back to, even now in this new kind of era of retirement. But Crucial Conversations.
Yes.
So we talked about, how do I go confront,
Mhm.
when you got a naysayer or somebody that's sitting on the fence. That book is really excellent in helping you through some of those,
Yes.
as well as if you have personnel problems.
Mhm.
We all have those.
Yep.
And how do we deal with those so that it's respectful and the employee doesn't feel like they're, kind of like when I made that mistake, didn't feel like they're going to wither away.
Right.
Because I think there is always a path to get them back to a good performer, but you got to have the conversation.
And to be willing to put our own ego, our own agenda aside.
Yes.
And meet that person where they're at and then listen.
Yeah, listen's really important.
Yeah.
It's funny, as I've gone through my career, I would talk more in my younger career, right? Because I thought I needed to know all the answers.
Yes.
And then you realize, oh, wait, no, I actually need to be quiet and listen to my managers, my employees, because they're doing the job every day.
Yes.
And so that's really shifted a little bit over my career, is less talking and more listening.
Yeah, I love that. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, right?
For a
Do
reason.
twice the listening. I love that. And that's another thing that I hear with change and AI integration is so many of the folks that are implementing these changes, they want to talk to the boots on the ground. Who are the people doing the thing? Because that's where we're going to see improvement and streamlining. So we've got to hear the people who are doing the day-to-day.
Yep. And I know there's fear out there, but with anything kind of new cycle, there's always going to be fear. But I always look at it as it's going to bring so many opportunities, new opportunities that, but you got to help people get through that fear. Like, I know probably some people are going to get laid off for whatever reason, but I do think there's a lot more opportunities if we can help them see those opportunities.
And I think another part to piggyback on that is the jobs that are going to be of tomorrow. Like, we don't know them yet.
No.
Because we don't know where AI is going to get us. So yeah, the one over there might have got removed or replaced. But wow, look at this whole stuff we didn't know about yet.
That's right.
So new jobs to come.
New jobs that we don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been a really lovely conversation, Kathy. While we've got to know each other just a little bit in our social networking space, learning this deep dive about your personal journey, hearing about just the lessons that you've learned and the role that you play now, even in SIM, or you still kind of hang out with TASB a little bit?
I do. Still contracting a little bit with them. I'm kind of on the call for the new CIO if she has a question, which has been also a very nice transition instead of just cutting it off.
Right?
It's been great for her.
Yeah.
And it's been great for me. Retirement is kind of scary. And so I really have liked kind of, gradually getting out of that job versus just, okay, that was my last day. So it's been a great transition.
I love it. And I already kind of know the answer because I asked you this morning, but what is your travel plans for the summer?
I am so excited. So being from up north, I've always wanted to be by the lake. The lakes up north in Minnesota are just beautiful. And so my husband and I are going to go up north for a whole month in the month of August, where it's so hot here that I can go play golf and not, be
melt away. Yes.
Right. So very, very excited. We have a cabin right on the lake. And there's 3 golf courses within 20 minutes of this little cabin. And so I'm just tickled, and I hope it all works out great.
That is awesome. I love that for you. I mean, that's goals, literally. When it's 100 plus for multiple days to be able to go north where it's beautiful. I mean, goals.
Exactly.
So you live that life, and we want to see pictures and hear all about it.
Okay, will do.
Thank you again, Kathy, for your time. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your heart of investing into people like me and those that join us for the books that shaped us. Everybody, you guys have a great, beautiful day. We'll chat with you again soon.